oftentimes the story that we're afraid to share is the very story that's going to set somebody free. When you get free, freedom spreads. It's contagious. People want to be free.
Have you ever had a season where life knocked you down and you weren't sure how to get back up? Maybe you're in one right now. Today we're talking about resilience, what it actually looks like when you failed, lost something, or had to start over, and how you can rise again after the fall. Welcome to Witness the Wonder. I'm your host, Christina Smith. I'm joined by publisher Missy Maxwell Wharton and Donna Bess, editor of the Warrior Writers anthology, Resilience, The Rise After the Fall. This anthology brings together 22 powerful stories of perseverance, faith, and restoration. Missy, Donna, welcome to Witness the Wonder.
Good to
Thank
be
you.
here, Chris.
Missy, what was the heart behind Resilience, The Rise After the Fall?
Well, I think everyone in their life at some point, if they've lived, has failed at some point, and they feel like they can't move forward in life and they need some type of encouragement. I looked overall at most of the warrior writers that we have. All of them have stories where at some point they failed in a miserable way. They felt, whether it was a moral failure or a financial failure, a marriage failure. It was a lot of different types of things that the enemy was beating them up over. Why would anybody, even trust you? Or why keep dreaming? Why keep hoping your failure? And so many people have that voice of the enemy just going through and look what you did. Aren't you ashamed of that? And the reason I love this is because these women took authority and they rose up and saw what God said about them, knew that they were redeemed. So they wrote into their chapter how God was there. He redeemed their past and he rose them up to be a person who would encourage others and help others overcome the very thing that they had faced. That's why when Donna presented it to me, I went, that's it. That's the one. We want women to feel like they can rise up from the ashes of what the enemy has done in their life.
That is amazing. Now, this is a trilogy. This is the third book in a series, and you've kept the title Resilience the entire time. Is there a reason why you kept it as Resilience?
Yes, because we have to be resilient to overcome. And resilience speaks beyond just one subject matter. We have to have resilience in our marriage. We have to have resilience in our health. We have to have resilience in believing for the best to come ahead, because we're constantly bombarded with a world that is going to hit us with the negative before it hits with the positive. We need to look at what's happening and say, but yet I am resilient resilient in this matter through Christ, because he strengthens me and I can do all things through him. That's why we just keep resilience, because it is a strong word. And if you just do a word study on it, you'll absolutely fall in love with it.
Well, I love resilience because, the rise after the fall, we all have that. It's the human condition. It's life. Like it's the entire journey of life. You have the high moments and you have those low moments. And so, yes, I'm grateful for the resilience that has came out of each and every experience I've walked through. Now, Donna, you were the editor of this book and you worked with 22 authors and you had to shape 22 different stories. What stood out most to you across all of the chapters?
Well, the excitement that I had in that formatting process was, I don't know, it was something otherworldly. It was an acknowledgement that was the opportunity that has been given to women to take their place and use their voice to communicate a story that has been transformation from them. It's a story where life was lost, hope was lost, and in the end, they have found hope. As I was looking at this book as a whole, I was overcome with this gratitude of how 22 authors have come together to share a restoration transformation story. But more than that, it's an opportunity. And that's what I love about the Warrior Writers, is that each of us, including you, we came into this as a different person. We weren't who we are today. And even Missy, even though she's the leader of the group, she's not who she was 3 years ago. We have each grown. Our faith has grown. Our calling has been clarified and identified. And that's what I see in a lot of the writing in these people, because some of these people have been in for 3 years and some of these are brand new authors. We have 6 brand new authors in this book. When I see that trajectory of people, I'm just like, wow, what an honor and a blessing to just literally see the transformation in the authors that are from the beginning to now and the brand new ones and their excitement to be able to say, I'm an author, because there's something tangible in a book that they can hold up in their hand and say, look what I did. And I feel like this experience is actually something that catapults them into a deeper faith. And I'm reminded of the story of Abraham. God gave him a calling long before he had the faith to accomplish it. He gave him a promise long before the fulfillment. And
Mhm.
that's what Warrior Writers offers. That's what the resilience offers. You have a calling. And some of these people, as they're going through the editing process, it's like, wow, I had no idea so much was involved. It's just such a growing process. And when I see Resilience 3 compared to the Resilience 1, and I see the changes that have happened in the women, I'm
Mhm.
honored and blessed to even be a part of it, to be honest with you. I feel like it's a high calling, and I'm filled with gratitude.
Our stories have power to one, build faith within us that, you know what, I did it. They wrote that story finally. Like you said, they're a published author. They can say, you know what, if I did that, then I can finish my own book and,
Absolutely.
get it done. So I love it. And,
Yeah.
I
It's
appreciate.
opportunity. That's the word that it is. It's the opportunity. What we do with our opportunities, it's between us and God, right? But this environment has created an opportunity for people to step into their calling. Some of these women, maybe they'll never actually write a book, but like, you haven't finished your book yet, but look at what God is doing. Look
Thanks
at what
you for
God
that
is doing.
reminder, Donna.
It's opportunity. It's not, no, I don't mean that in a
No,
negative way.
I'm
I mean that
teasing
in
you. I'm
mean that,
teasing you.
and it doesn't matter, because look at what God is doing. I mean, it's amazing the opportunities that have been provided to us in this group, and how all of us have grown, and all of us are stepping into different seasons, and all of us are doing things with our lives that we would have never even considered before. This is an opportunity, and the women who jumped in it, then who knows what God will do. It's amazing.
I was part of Resilience One. Actually, it did do all the things that you're saying. It did help catapult me into who I've been created to be. And like you said, every open door that we walk through of obedience, first we're being obedient to do what God's calling us to do. But each door we walk through just opens another door that we can't see yet. And so I love that. I'm sure in Resilience One, did you expect there to be a Resilience Three? I think you probably did.
No, no, no. Missy did.
I know we were just trying to get through Resilience 1 and 2.
I was just trying to figure out how to edit.
You know,
Yes.
that is so true. It's such a process. We all were stretched through that. For those of us who were first-time authors, we were stretched in, "Oh my gosh, am I doing this right?" First off, all authors had a problem with, I don't know, was this still a problem this time? Keeping it under the word limit.
Not as much. Not as much.
We're getting better. I will say, like as Missy taught us, because Missy is a writing coach. She was my writing coach. And as you taught along the way, I learned how to become more concise in what I was writing and with descriptiveness. Missy, you also contributed a chapter to this book. What does your chapter focus on, and why was it important for you to share this part of your story in this book?
Well, thank you. And we miss you, by the way, FYI. But my chapter is called Walking in Authority to Rise. And what I did is I went through how these women came into a place of authority. And because we don't have authority just because we say we do, we earn authority in the challenges, in the wars that we have been in. If you even look at generals, for instance, generals continue to get stars. Generals continue to get promoted based on how many wars they've been through. And when you look at a 5-star general, you know he has gone through a lot of wars. But for us, we're looking at a different type of war. And all of these ladies have been through a battle. And so they've earned their stripes, because when the enemy thinks that he has you, and then you turn and shift the atmosphere and take hold of what God has placed within you and what God says about you, then suddenly you rise up and you have authority from then on. It's like a person who has has been in alcoholism and they can't break it. They can't break it. They just keep doing it. And finally they rise up and say, this is no more. I love my family. I love myself. I can't continue to do this. This is not who I was created to be. And they rise up. You can't get that person to drink again. Once they see that what it did to them, the devastation that the enemy was keeping them underneath his thumb, underneath his foot, however you want to see it. But you can't get them to drink because they know the cost. And these women now have authority over whether it's alcohol, where it's some of them, they have authority over their health. And some of them have authority over the words that come out of their mouth. And they've learned to respond, not react. And this is only built going through the fire. That's what mine is about, because I learned how to stop fearing. And now there's still fear that comes up, but I've learned how to grab hold of that fear and say, what is it that I'm concerned about here? And change it into, I know God is taking care of every detail in my life, so I have nothing to fear. And so I do start it with the story of rescuing my 6-year-old adopted daughter from going into slavery. We had a lot of fear in my story, and every day I had a choice to choose love or to choose fear. And so I wrote that chapter that kind of introduces the whole book overall.
Missy actually was on season 1, and she shared the story of going to get her adopted daughter and the struggles they went through and the battles, the spiritual battles that they went through. So that's a powerful story. So you should go back to season 1 and watch Missy's episodes. They're powerful. Lots of wisdom and truth in there too. It's so true that I think about my own life and how when I hit 40, all of a sudden there was something that the realization, this something snapped in me to say, you know what? God's never failed me before. He's not about to do it now. There is an authority, like you said, there is an assurance of faith, a trust that rises up within you to say, you know what? I don't care what's thrown my way. I know God's greater and that he's going to overcome. And so it's easier now, like you said, no one's perfect. We all struggle. We all like have that moment where fear wants to grab us, but God is greater. We know who we serve and we know who resides on the inside of us, right? Stick with us. In a few minutes, Donna shares what happened after she finally told her story. Resilience: The Rise After the Fall brings together 22 stories of women who've walked through loss, failure, betrayal, and starting over, and what it looked like to rise again. You'll find the book linked in the show notes. Donna, you also share your own story in the anthology. What part of your story did you share?
So the title of my story is called Crying Behind the Smile. And it's a story of how I learned to put on a face, well before I was ever a Christian. I just learned to put on a face no matter what was going on. I looked happy on the outside, no matter what was happening on the inside. And certain events happened over the course of time that really kind of crippled me, to be honest with you. Even though I could still smile on the inside was not shaken, it was crumbling. And the process of going through that healing and learning how to walk in a way that wasn't fake, not that I was intending to be fake, but I wasn't available, or I wouldn't allow people to see the inner me. I would keep the outside for the outside and the inside very private. And so it's kind of that kind of journey. And what I really came away with through my journey was that God, not one time did he look past my failures. Every single failure, he walked me through.
Mhm.
He didn't look past him. It says sin is removed as far as the east is from the west. That's true. But those sins shaped who we are today. Those failures shaped who we are today. And today, the person that I am, I look back on my past and I'm like, praise God for all of that. Praise God for all of that. And so actually, I can't quote it, but the last sentence is, he didn't look past my failures. He walked me straight through them, and because that's what creates us, right? Kind of what Missy was talking about. Fear is something that we always have to overcome. At every season in our life, we have an increase in fear. I'm in a new season right now. I'm looking at things that I'm unfamiliar with, and I'm like, but but the truth is that fear is the growing process. Fear is where we begin to activate our faith and we begin to make the choices and we begin to just say, I'm willing to be invested in this growth process. I'm willing to put it on the line. I might be afraid, but I'm going to trust you. And that's really what most of these stories center in. That's kind of the crux of most of the stories is that we know fear is there. We recognize it. It's not like it's hard, but putting our faith in God and going, you know what? Your plan is greater than mine. I don't obviously have a handle on all this, but you and only you can see me through, and you will. And he does. And that's what's in my story. And that's what's in all these stories. And in that process, we gain exactly what Missy just talked about, our authority over what the devil is trying to do, not just in our lives, but in the lives of those that we encounter, the people that we see every day, wherever we work, play, whatever. We can have authority over the things that are happening in their lives and help to share with them how they can move forward. And that's what I'm hoping this book will do for people who read it.
I believe it will, because I know these authors and I know that they're powerful women of God and that what they've overcome. And actually, it leads into the next question for you, Missy. Why do you believe collective storytelling and testimony are so powerful, especially for readers who maybe feel alone in what they're facing?
Well, here's the thing about our stories. And it talks about it in Revelation. We know all about that. For as by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony that we're going to defeat the enemy. And I believe that is key to other people's recognizing that they're not alone, because hardships have this profound effect of just a way of exposing what is hidden within us. And pain has a way of bringing clarification. And the beautiful thing is it strips away any borrowed beliefs that we may have, and it leads us straight into truth. And that's what sharing your testimony does, is somebody who thinks, oh, I can't share that part of my life with anybody because what will they think of me? Well, Jesus never cared about what people thought of him.
No, he did
Really
not.
didn't. And he had authority over that part of his mindset. And his mindset was that I'm the son of God and I'm here to free the captive. And so our stories help free captives who are bound with the same lies that we were bound with.
That's actually a lot of why I do Witness the Wonder, is because we share these stories because, one, it builds faith, right? When we hear the stories, the Bible says faith comes by hearing. So when we hear these stories, it's building that faith within us to say, you know what? God's no respecter of persons. What he did for Missy, he'll do that for me. What he did for Donna, he can do that for me. What better good news? Like, the gospel is the good news, but what better news is it to an alcoholic to hear another person who's been delivered from alcoholism? You know what I mean? That's good news to hear that story. You know what? If they've been delivered, I can do this too. With Christ,
Amen.
all things are possible, right? So, Donna, what would you say to someone who feels like their story doesn't matter or isn't important enough to share?
I would say that they aren't having the perspective of the person that's maybe in the room with them that has a brokenness that they're unwilling or unknowing about. Oftentimes, the story that we're afraid to share is the very story that's going to set somebody free. I have actually a personal experience of that from my book. When I released my book, I had a 70-year-old man who said to me, how'd you do this? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What did I do? And he goes, you put all your crap in a book. I was like, well, first I had to get healed. That was the first thing I had to do. And so he's like, yeah, but that's like a lot of stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I want to be able to help people. And then he exposed a horrible thing that happened to him when he was 10 that he'd never ever told anybody ever in his life, and how it had affected him. And I mean, in that moment I was like, how dare I? How dare I think my story doesn't have value? How dare I not see that there's somebody just desperately waiting for my story? Because the truth is my story could set 10 people free and yours could set 100. I don't know. But the truth is it will set somebody free, because when you get free, freedom spreads. It's contagious. People want to be free. If you know anybody at all, that's what they want. They want freedom. And so stories bring freedom to other people. And the story that you have and the story that you carry, if you tell it in a healed way, it's going to help heal somebody else. It's always going to bring life because life breeds life. Spirit breeds spirit. So, I say, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but come to the Warrior Writers and let us show you that it's not true.
Absolutely. You know, you said something there. Jesus went after the one. They talk
Mhm,
about how we go after one. If your story only reaches one person,
mhm,
because that's all it was meant to reach, it was worth it all, right? And the other beautiful thing about writing your story and sharing your story, every time I share my story with a person one on one, or even here on Witness the Wonder, there's healing that comes through that. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
That's one of the biggest things with writing, especially through the Warrior Writers, that I learned is every time I would write a difficult, painful part of my story, I would
Mhm,
have to deal with some healing issues in there, right? We would
mhm.
have to work on
Yeah,
that. And so I believe that is one of the major benefits of telling
yeah,
your story is for your own
yeah,
healing alone,
yes,
you know? So that is a
yes,
powerful thing that comes out
yeah.
of sharing our stories. But yeah, it actually builds confidence, builds faith that, you know what? I walked through that and I made it through on
Yes.
the other side.
I'm a
And
survivor.
and I don't look like where I've been, right?
Yes, 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 and that's, like, probably the most powerful testimony that a person could get is, like, "I would never know that this was you."
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, wow, yeah, I guess you're right, because you wouldn't, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
like, why
right.
would you
You would
look
never think.
that was
Right.
you know?
Well, the
But,
interesting I mean, Kim Clement, have y'all ever heard of Kim Clement?
mhm,
Yes.
He put out a s he God gave him a song, and it was, "I'm somewhere in the future, and I look much better than I look right now."
I love that.
Yes.
All of us, we're
Yes.
somewhere in the future, we're gonna look better because we're learning and we're constantly growing.
Yeah,
Right. Life is a journey of becoming. I've just recently
becoming.
realized that, we think we are wanting to arrive into that
Yes,
person that we are created to be. But honestly, I
yes.
think every life experience we walk through is part of that journey of becoming that person and stepping into that position of authority of who we were created to be. And it equips us and builds something in us to step into it with
Mhm,
that assurance and that
mhm.
confidence, right? Missy, when a reader finishes Resilience, The Rise After the Fall, how do you hope they'll feel as they close that final page?
Our biggest desire, I think every person that has taken time to write their chapter wants this to happen. When a person finishes their book and they stand up, how are they going to be different from when they started the book? And I just see people shutting the book and saying, okay, just like this, there's an area in my life that I'm going to submit to the Father and say, I choose to rise up from the ashes in this and become all that you've created me to be. There is an example of any type of failure you can imagine is in this book. And I
Mhm,
just really believe it's going to inspire and just stoke the fire of hope and bring them into an area of believing that they can do all things through
mhm,
Christ. They were sent with a purpose, and the enemy cannot knock that out unless they let the enemy
mhm,
do it.
mhm.
And this is such a book of saying, get up, and let's try
Yeah.
again because God is with you. He's at your right, He's at your left. He is holding your arms up. And that's what I hope they see. And I hope they have courage, that it
Yeah.
encourages them that they can try again and they can hope again. So
Mhm,
that's
mhm,
my biggest, and to have faith because
mhm,
these are stories of faith.
mhm.
Donna,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you hope? You've put a lot of work into that book. You always, in all the anthologies, you've put a lot of hours and a lot of work. What do
Thank you.
you hope all that work will pay off for the reader?
Well, I mean, like Missy, but if I may, I'd like to just tell you just a kinda little snippet of some of the types of topics that are in this book
Absolutely. Go
because it
ahead.
it covers so many things that there's, like, not a soul breathing that couldn't be transformed by a story in this book, okay? Our first, Our first category is when life collapses. I don't know any human who hasn't had that experience, but it covers a lot of things from health, cancer, anxiety, shame. Then the next section is grief, loss, and identity. It covers a lot of the same kinds of issues like unforgiveness, widowhood, infertility, all of those things that affect our identity and who we are. And then shame, worth, and the mind covers eating disorders and when a spouse cheats and how to actually walk through that. And it covers when someone goes through a physical trauma that completely shuts them down and how they overcome it. And then it moves into love and loyalty and redemption. And it has stories of overcoming broken marriages and receiving Jesus. Matched Made in Heaven is one of them where, she waited until God told her who to marry before she got married. And then also there's a story of choosing to love after betrayal. And then a woman who got pregnant at 16 and how God miraculously redeemed that. Then Courage, Calling, and Beginnings. It's another betrayal story. And then also a health story, a transformation of moving your family and moving to somewhere else and starting over. And then also the last story is about a wheelchaired woman who got a beauty crown for real and how it affected her life. And so it's a great book covering many, many topics. You cannot not be blessed from it. It's just not possible because there's a story for everybody and multiple stories for everybody. And what I hope, again, I've already said, but when people come away from this, I hope they believe. I hope they believe that no matter what their life looks like, there is hope.
Well, ladies, this has been amazing. For me, it was incredibly special to be part of Resilience One. And I love seeing how all of these stories are continuing to help readers just to know they're not alone, right? Just to feel that there's somebody out there that understands them and has been where they are. And like you said, they get hope out of it. One of the things I love about this anthology is that every chapter opens the door to a deeper conversation. Throughout season 2 of Witness the Wonder, I'm going to be sitting down with several of the authors featured in this book to hear the stories behind their chapters and the journeys that didn't always fit on the page. So to learn more about today's guest or explore the resources mentioned, visit ChristinaSmithOfficial.com. And if you're enjoying Witness the Wonder, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future episodes and these authors. Leaving a review or sharing the show with someone you know really helps these stories reach more people. Today's episode partner is the Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold helps individuals diversify their savings with physical gold and silver. If you'd like to get their free information kit, visit ChristinaSmithOfficial.com. Missy and Donna, thank you both for being here today and for the care, leadership, and heart you've poured into this book. Resilience, the Rise After the Fall is a reminder that even when life brings loss, hardship, or uncertainty, our stories are not over. You need to get that book. So if you're still finding your footing after a fall, I hope this conversation encourages you and reminds you that God is always at work in your story. Thank you for joining me today on Witness the Wonder.